Okay, my friends, today I've got a very special one for you because today I'm going to show you how to make the workhorse of the fermentation game, and that is the lactic acid bacteria serum. Now, you may have heard of this before. This is really big in KNF, Korean natural farming, and I learned how to make it a number of years ago, and today I'm going to show you how to make it because I've been using this stuff for years for all sorts of stuff, and it is really powerful, really beneficial, and it just straight up works. And it's easy to make. And so I'm just gonna get right into showing you how to make it. And then after I show you how to make it, I'll tell you exactly what it's good for and what to dilute it at. And then at the very, very end, I'm gonna show you the most awesome thing of all, and that is how to make your own homemade cheese from this substance. Okay, first step, we have to make a rice wash solution. So to do that, we are going to take 2 cups of rice. It doesn't matter what kind of rice it is, brown rice, long grain, short grain, jasmine, basmati, whatever. And then put about 1.5 liters of hot water into the rice. And then stir it, agitate it really good. This is important. You want to really make sure that the water gets cloudy. So stir it good for a good 30 seconds or a minute. Then once it's nice and cloudy, pour off 1 liter of it into a mason jar. Now place the liter of rice wash water in some place where it will not be disturbed and it is out of direct sunlight. It doesn't matter so much exactly where, just somewhere, and let it sit for 3 to 5 days. Okay, now here we are. It's been about 4 or 5 days and we have our rice wash water. Now you'll notice you have to tell exactly when it's at the right stage, okay? You see how there's a film that has been created at the top like this? Even a moth fell into it. That's okay. But there is this kind of scummy film and there's bubbles, air bubbles. Now, that's a good sign. Also, you want to have a smell. The smell is the #1 thing that is going to tell you when your rice wash water is ready. Now, at first, for the first couple of days, it's just going to smell like rice. But now, once it starts to turn, it's going to have that kind of yeasty sort of. It smells like cheese starter or cheese culture. It has that kind of fermented yeast cheese sort of almost a little bit off. To me, it's become pleasant. To me, the smell is pleasant, but many people would describe it as foul, you know? So now it's at the right stage. Next step is to acquire a receptacle, preferably glass, preferably about 2 gallons, but whatever you have will work. Then take the soured rice wash water, pour it into the receptacle, and then take 1 gallon of milk. Now this must be real milk from an animal. It cannot be plant milk. Preferably organic is best, especially if you want to consume the cheese at the end. Organic is best, but you can also use regular. But the important thing is that it is from an animal and it is the whole milk because you need the whole fat. So do not use skim or low fat or nothing. You want whole animal milk. And in fact, the absolute best option is to use unpasteurized fresh milk straight from the udder. That would be ideal. But if you can't find that, any kind of milk will work. Then pour it into the receptacle, the whole gallon. Okay, now the next part, after you have all the liquid into the receptacle, put a lid over it. Now it does not matter if it's an airtight lid or a breathable lid. That does not matter. These are conditionally anaerobic, so they can survive either way. I personally like to just use fabric, but secure it in such a way so that nothing can get into it. No insects or anything like that. Put it in a place where it's going to be out of direct light and relatively warm. Now, we want to be checking on this thing starting after 24 to 36 hours. Now, here we are about 36 to 48 hours later, and we're looking at it. You can see how it's starting to look solidified. It's starting to look like a gelatinous sort of mass. And up top, it almost looks like a cottage cheese a little bit. You're seeing the air bubbles and stuff like that. And then when you look at the side, you see there's air bubbles. And down here on the corner, there's just starting to be the clear liquid. That means it's starting to separate. And that is what we are after. So after we see this, it's got about 24 hours left. So here we are about 24 hours later from the last clip, and this is about 72 to 84 hours after mixing the rice wash water with the milk. And we can see here it is completely separated. We have very distinct line of the curd up top and the liquid down below. Now, this is what we want. We want this liquid. We have to separate these two because the liquid is pure lactic acid bacteria serum. This is the good stuff. Now, we're going to place a receptacle, large mixing bowl, into the sink, and then we're going to place over that a very fine fabric. It can be like a cheesecloth, but a really tight woven cheesecloth. You see how tight this is? It's more like a t-shirt. That's how tightly woven it is. Place it over the bowl. Then we're simply going to very gingerly pour the lactic acid bacteria serum through the cheesecloth. Now, we don't have to do this really fast. We don't want to get it all broken up. It's best to leave the solids up top like that. It's going to make everything a lot easier. So just gingerly pour it through the cheesecloth into the receptacle. Now we're going to want to pour this into a mason jar of some variety. Here's a half-gallon mason jar. We're going to refrigerate this because we want to use this within a few days. If you wanted to store it longer, there's a process. You have to use a breathable lid, and you have to mix it with equal amount by weight of brown sugar and stuff. But for all practical purposes, I like to just use it within a couple of days, and this is absolutely fine. Now what you have here is a very potent, very rich source of lactic acid bacteria, and we can use this for all kinds of good stuff. Okay, so now that you know how to make it, and now that you've got your lactic acid bacteria serum, how do I use it? Well, as a general rule, dilute it 1 ounce per gallon of water. Now, the bacteria in here, so just briefly going into it without getting too deep, in the soil, the plants don't actually consume the organic nutrients that you have. They don't consume the blood meal, they don't consume the bone meal, they don't consume the grass or the manure. None of that is actually absorbed directly by the plant. It must first be consumed by microorganisms, and then the byproduct of that is what the plant consumes. So by drenching the soil in this at 1 ounce a gallon, and the leaves of the plant and everything, 1 ounce a gallon, once a week or so, by doing that, you're going to supercharge the soil's capability of feeding the plant, because these bacteria are going to convert the nutrients in the soil to a plant available form. So it makes life a lot easier on the plants. It's an overall soil and plant health booster. Now you can also boost the health of your pets, your animals, your livestock, whatever it is. 1 ounce a gallon of water, you can let them drink it. You can also just soak their food in 1 ounce of this and let it get in there, let them eat it. It helps with the digestion big time. You yourself can consume it, but there's no need to consume the liquid because you're going to be consuming the cheese, which is phenomenal. Let me show you. Okay, so you remember those solids that we had after pouring off the liquid? Well, put the solids back into the cheesecloth and wrap the cheesecloth real tight around into a ball. And then you can make some kind of a press and leave it overnight with a weight on top. You see, I wrapped it tightly in the cheesecloth and I put the weight on top, the pan and the molasses jug. And that is going to squeeze out the water overnight. So then you come back in the morning and you see all the lactic acid stuff that it squeezed off is in the bottom of this thing. Okay, now what we are left with is what is known as farmhouse cheese, meaning that it is fresh cheese that is very much alive and filled with probiotics and all kinds of beneficial organisms that is going to dramatically help our gut health and our overall health. So we're going to take this cheese and we're going to eat it fresh within the next 2 to 3 days at most. And we just eat it with a little bit of salt, maybe some oregano, some olive oil, some basil with the tomato. It is so delicious and so good for you. Now, if you wanted to make actual cheese from it, there's a bit of a process. I can show you guys that. Let me know in the comments if you want to learn that process. It's a little bit more involved. But this is massively healthy, massively delicious. I crave this stuff. There's something about it. Once your body feels how beneficial this is, you're going to crave it too. It's a cheese experience unlike any other. So there you go, my friends. If you feel like you gained something from the video, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone who needs this knowledge, and big shout out and thank you to everyone that is using the link in the description to make a donation to the cause. I greatly appreciate it. There's all kinds of links in the description to everything I talk about in these videos, so check that out and let me know video suggestion ideas for the next ones.